to Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. And here's your host, Cody Manning.
And welcome into the Friday edition of Cody Talks NFL. Hope you guys have had a great week. Hope you guys are ready for the weekend. I know I am. I'm ready for Sunday. We got a decent amount of great action. We have a lot of playoff implications going on this weekend. So I'm ready to go ahead and get into this episode for you guys. I got a couple things that came out this week that I'm going to give my opinion on. I don't necessarily have to deep dive into it. I will on a little bit of it, but you guys have more than likely already know about this news. One of the news topics literally came out the day after I released my Monday episode, and then the firing, I'll go ahead and start there. The firing of Ron Rivera came out the next day. So yeah, the Panthers did fire Ron Rivera, their head coach. You know, they made the playoffs the last 4 out of the 6 years, 2-time head coach, winner of the year. And then he also took the team to the Super Bowl, but it just seemed like it was time to move on. It's kind of one of those things where maybe if the message is growing stale and it's not coming across the team, it just doesn't work out. I know David Tepper was he tried to give patience for it, but because usually with new owners, they from what I understand, they'll come in and most time clean house right away. He at least tried to wait it out and see if this could work out. But he wants to go towards more of an analytical-driven coach. He's trying to change the whole philosophy of the football side of the business. So, and I want to give credit to David Tepper too about this, because while the timing might have been odd, I kind of felt like he should have waited until the end of the season to fire him. But then he can't. That was my initial thoughts. But then David Tepper came out and said that he heard that other teams have already begun doing coaching searches, cough, cough, Falcons. And he wanted to be a man and actually tell Ron Rivera up front about it. He said he's an upfront person. He doesn't want to hide anything. So for him to do that, that gives me respect to him. Like, he didn't want to go behind Ron Rivera's back and start searching for a coach. He told Ron Rivera about it. Who knows? Maybe they had a private conversation where he told Rivera about it, and maybe he was like, "Listen, I can fire you now, or you can finish the season." And maybe Rivera was like, "You know what? Let's just part ways now." Who knows? The organization did him right by giving him a press conference. They gave him thanks. So I just want to give kudos to Tepper, because I do feel like he did handle this. And most owners, they'll fire their coach and they don't say anything much afterwards. Tepper, if you go on the Panthers social media, Twitter handle, maybe they have it on their Facebook, but I saw it on Twitter a couple days outside of from today, a few days ago. He had like a 6-minute sit down where he explains why he did this and what he's looking forward to. So Ron Rivera's gone. As I kind of actually said on the Monday episode, I felt like he was going to be gone at the end of the season. And like I kind of said on the Monday episode, I still think the Jaguars could be a potential landing spot for him. I for some reason, I feel like that's going to be the spot he goes to. But if spots open up like in maybe like Cleveland, that makes sense to me. Maybe if he has it depends on what happens in New York, because it does sound like the Giants are probably going to move on from Pat Shurmur, but there's also questions if they move on from Dave Gettleman. But if they keep Gettleman and fire Shurmur, Gettleman and Ron Rivera have a history together. So it makes sense maybe he would go to the Giants. We'll see. Obviously, when that happens, I can address that at the time. As far as where the Panthers go this offseason, who knows? I'm in that part of the industry where as of right now, I think they actually are going to hold on to Cam Newton. So, but I also think that does depend on the head coach they hire. For example, one of the hottest names right now that could potentially be a head coach hiring is out of Baltimore, their offensive coordinator, Greg Roman. If Greg Roman comes to Carolina, it kind of actually makes sense for them to stick with Cam Newton because of his style of play. So I think Cam Newton's future in Carolina actually rides on what type of coach that they hire. So that'll be something to monitor in the offseason. But for the rest of the season, Panthers secondary coach PAYWALL, I think I'm saying that right. He's been named the interim head coach. He's going to give the opportunity, and they didn't give it to Norv Turner. Norv Turner has past head coaching experience, but in that video I talked about David Tepper, he talked about how he wanted to give these guys a chance to, enhance their resume and potential opportunities even within the team. So Norv Turner is actually going to be a special assistant to the head coach. And then Norv Turner's son now is actually going to be the offensive coordinator. So his son is actually going to get an opportunity to shine as an offensive coordinator. So I do think that's kind of a cool way to like give people an opportunity to use these last 4 games to enhance their resume for future opportunities. And then the other thing that came out, guys, it's something we all kind of knew was going to happen, but Jaguars did go back and they named Gardner Minshew to be the starter for the remainder of the season. The first year of the Nick Foles experiment has not worked out. I'm not sure where they're going to go from here because it's going to be they're stuck. I mean, in my opinion, Nick Foles will be on the Jaguars roster next year. I know a lot of people are floating around the idea, of Nick Foles getting traded somewhere. But if Nick Foles looked this bad in his first season for the Jaguars, what team in their right mind is going to want to trade for that contract? You're talking about a 30-year-old quarterback who's coming off an injury that hasn't looked good. I know if I was a GM, I'm not trying to trade for that contract for him to be my potential starter. In my opinion, I think the Jaguars are going to enter next year with Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles in a training camp battle to decide who will be the starter for the 2020 season. Now, looking at the contract of Nick Foles, you got to keep in mind his cap hit next year is $21.87 million. They can't cut him because if they cut him, they're going to have $33.87 million in dead money, and they don't save any cap money at all. So they're basically stuck with him heading into next season. And I don't know what team would want that contract on their cap. And then in 2021, it kind of gets more flexible. He would be a cap hit of $26.875 million. If they cut him, they would have $12.5 million in dead money, but they would also save $14.375 million in the process. And then they can get rid of him in 2022 in the last year of the contract. He'd be a cap hit of $27 million, but if they were to cut him, the dead money is only $6.25 million, and the savings is $20.7 million. And then, so Gardner Minshew's a chance to shine these last 4 games. And if he looks bad or if he looks great, maybe that does influence where they go with that quarterback position. Again, they might look to trade Foles, but I can't imagine what team would want to trade for him. Who knows? I've been surprised before by the NFL. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get into recapping last night's game. The Bears won 31-24. That score is a lot closer than what it really was. I mean, the Bears basically manhandled them after the first couple of drives. It looked like it was going to be the Cowboys game, right? Marched down the field, picked them apart, little 17-play drive that resulted in a touchdown. Next drive for the Bears, they're marching down, but then Trubisky throws a bad throw and it ends up in an interception. At that point, I was like, yep, Cowboys are about to march down, be up 14-0, and this is going to be a boring game to watch. But it completely went elsewhere. They didn't march down the field, and then Bears got the ball back, tied up the game, and then they just kept on scoring after that. Dak looked off last night. The whole offense looked off last night after that first drive. I don't know what has happened to that defense. That defense is allowing all types of quarterbacks to throw all over them. They made Mitchell Trubisky look like Lamar Jackson last night. Now the Bears are sitting at a 7-6 record. Do they have a shot to make the playoffs? Technically, yes, but it's going to be very difficult. They're 3 games behind in the wild card position right now. And then they got the Packers next week in Green Bay. They got the Kansas City Chiefs at home. And then they got the Vikings on the road. So they're more than likely going to maybe finish with maybe they can win one of those games and go 8-8. But yeah, there's still going to be a disappointing season for them. I still think Matt Nagy's a good coach. I think they should definitely keep him next year. I know there are some rumblings about firing him. Again, give a coach that at least keep in mind, he won Coach of the Year last year and took him to the playoffs. So give him at least the 3rd year. I know there's a lot of speculation with the Bears about moving on from Mitchell Trubisky, but the reality is he's got his 4th year. I don't know if they're going to give him the 5th year extension. That's something for us to watch this offseason. I honestly think they're going to give Mitchell Trubisky one that last year because of the way he's playing right now. and because of how tight their cap space is. So more likely you're going to see the same Bears team come back next year and just try to see if they can repeat the success from last year. And then, I mean, if they win a couple games, they might have some momentum going into the 2020 season. And then one note, though, with the Bears, Roquan Smith, one of their bright spots on the defense, he did tear well, it's likely he tore his pec. He's going to be done for the season. They're going to have an MRI to confirm that. And that'll probably come out here at some point today, maybe even by the time that you listen to this. Now, going with the Cowboys, they're sitting at 6-7, but the saddest thing is at 6-7, they're still in first place of the NFC East. So Cowboys somehow still have a chance to make the playoffs. Sounds like they're sticking with Garrett. I watched Jerry Jones' press conference last night. He seemed so devastated. I'm pretty sure he said, I just want us to win a game like a million times in that post-press conference. Yeah, they kind of control their own destiny. And Jerry said it himself. Somebody asked and said, hey, would you be happy if you're in the playoffs with a 7-9 record? And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't I be? So that's kind of funny. I found that he said that, but yeah, Cowboys are just I don't know. They have all the talent, but there's some bad coach team, and just a matter of time until Jason Garrett is out of there. I have no expectations for them. If they make the playoffs, I don't know. At this point, it seems like the team to me looked like they gave up last night at one point. Like, looked like they were just done with the team. Like, the whole team was just done with each other. Don't know if that makes much sense, but it just looks like the defense gave up. Dak didn't look good, and yeah, it just does not seem like that team is gelling. And I don't know, maybe the Eagles can make this an easy process for the Cowboys and just win out and get to 9-7, and they're the ones to make it into the playoffs. And then the Cowboys can finally move on from Jason Garrett. Because I just for the Cowboys nation out there, I would hate to see you guys sneak into the playoffs and then that talented roster finally put it together, make it to the NFC Championship game, maybe lose that game. And then Jerry gets convinced, maybe I can give Garrett one more year to get it done. So I think that's like the worst case scenario for the Cowboys fans. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get into the Sunday games for you guys. The first game is Carolina is traveling to Atlanta to face the Falcons. As far as there's no news on either team. As far as injuries, really quick, an update. Cam Newton is actually set to have foot surgery. So he should be healthy by OTAs in April. And then as far as for the game, though, Greg Little, he has not practiced with an ankle injury. Greg Olsen has not practiced with a concussion. Gerald McCoy has been limited with the ankle and knee injury. Eric Reed has been limited with the ankle injury. Taylor Moton has been limited with a knee injury. Shaq Thompson has been limited with an ankle injury. And Dante Jackson has been limited with a knee injury. On the Falcons front, James Carpenter has not practiced with a concussion. Alan Bailey has not practiced because of a personal matter. Julio Jones has been limited with a shoulder. Calvin Ridley limited with a toe. Desmond Trufant limited with a toe. Ricardo Allen has been limited with an oblique injury. Austin Hooper has been practicing. He's been limited with a knee injury. And then Russell Gage has been limited with a ribs injury. As far as this game's honestly kind of hard for me to predict. You're talking about, I mean, the Falcons have been a bad team, a letdown this year, but they still got the talent. Panthers, they were a surprise team at the beginning of the season, but they just fired their head coach. It's kind of hard to predict when a team fires their head coach which way their team is going to play. The team could basically hold their heads down knowing that the season's done and underperform, or it could be a thing that lights like a fire underneath their ass, and they're like, hey, we need to fight for our jobs for next year if we want to be on this roster. So, and putting some good film together. So, and who knows with the coaching staff too, like the same thing with them. They are going to probably want to prove themselves, especially with, like I talked about earlier, David Tepper's given some other guys a chance to shine as coordinators and head coaching. So hard to predict. Typically I would, if Ron Rivera was coaching this game, I would have picked the Panthers. Just because the Falcons beat them earlier, they embarrassed them. They'll probably want to split the series. But because it's in Atlanta and because the coach got fired, I'm going to lean towards Atlanta. I can see the Panthers still winning this. I think it's going to come down to it's going to be a closer game than what it was about a month ago. but I'll give Atlanta the win just because they're at home, and it's the first game after Ron Rivera just got fired. I'll say, I don't know, Falcons win 24-21, but who knows? I can see the Panthers winning this too. Next game, Colts are traveling down here to Tampa to face the Bucks. As far as a little news note, this week the Colts actually claimed Chase McLaughlin off the waivers. He was the kicker for the 49ers when Robbie Gould was out with his injury. Just to put a note in this too, it also came out that the Patriots and the Bills did put a claim in for McLaughlin, but the Colts had higher waiver priority than them, so they were awarded him. Vinatieri has actually been dealing with an injury since back in August, and it seems like it flared up over this past couple of weeks. Now there is a chance that he could be shut down. It sounds like his status is in doubt on Sunday. And it just sucks to see, the greatest kicker of all time having probably his worst season of his career, and that we may have seen the last of Vinatieri. As far as injuries for the matchup, T.Y. Hilton hasn't practiced with his calf injury. Kenny Moore has not practiced with the ankle injury. Malik Hooker has not practiced with a foot injury, and Rock Ya-Sin has been limited with the ankle injury for the Colts. On the Bucks front, Alex Kappa has not practiced with an elbow injury. Jason Pierre-Paul has been limited with a knee injury, and then MJ Stewart has been limited with a knee injury. As far as how I think this game's going to go, I mean, you're talking about two teams going in two different directions. The Bucks are one of the hottest teams right now over the past month. They're winning games. The defense is coming along. They're playing a lot better. The offense is moving the ball down the field, scoring touchdowns. And then on the Colts front, they have completely kind of fell apart, more because of the injuries. But, I mean, Jacoby Brissett hasn't played that well in the last month. But one of the brighter spots, or I mean, one of the, I guess, good things, the brighter spots of the offense of this season has been Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack was a full practice yesterday. So I won't say it is for sure. Let's see today's practice report, the official injury status for the game. But it does look like Marlon Mack is set to make his return for the Colts. So maybe that gives him a boost. But the Bucks are actually one of the better defenses against the run. So while he can't provide a boost to him, it may be a difficult process for them to get the run game going. But I know that's what the Colts want to do. I don't know. I think this is going to be it does have maybe a potential shootout type of game. It's hard for me to obviously pick. If anybody knows, I'm a Colts fan, so it's obviously hard to pick against my Colts. But I got to be honest, man. You're talking about two different teams going in two different directions. The Colts are on the road into Tampa. I mean, I think this is going to be a close game, but I'm just because the Bucks are the hotter team and the Colts got Ty. They're still missing T.Y. Hilton. They're still. Where am I? Oh, Kenny Moore and Malik Hooker. I think Malik Hooker will play. He's kind of done this every week with practice. But if they're out Malik Hooker and Kenny Moore to that passing attack of the Bucks, that's going to limit their ability to slow them down through the air. I don't know. Something tells me the Bucks are going to win. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last. I'll say the Bucks win like a 31-27 type of game. But obviously, you guys know I'll be cheering on my Colts. But things have not gone well for us over the last month, so it's hard for me to pick them. So I'll pick the Bucks in this one. Maybe I can do some reverse psychology on my favorite team. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and move into the next game. Miami is traveling up to New York to face the Jets. As far as injuries on the Dolphins front, Jerome Baker has been limited with a chest injury. Nick Needham has been limited with a groin injury. And of course, the Jets' injuries is always a long list for me to go through. Le'Veon Bell has not practiced because of an illness. Jamal Adams has not practiced because of an ankle injury. Chuma Edoga has not practiced with a knee injury. Ryan Griffin has been limited with an illness. Steve McClendon has been limited with a knee and hip injury. Henry Anderson has been limited with a shoulder injury. Kelvin Beachum has been limited with an ankle injury. Alex Lewis has been limited with a elbow injury. And Demaryius Thomas has been limited with a hamstring injury. As far as this game, I know the Dolphins got the game last time. I know the Jets are all types of banged up, but I think this is going to be a game where the Jets don't want to lose to the Dolphins twice in a season. I think this is going to be a game where they're going to do their best to make sure they at least split the series. The Jets are at home. I know the Dolphins just beat the Eagles too, and I really like their coaching staff way over the Jets coaching staff. But something tells me the Jets are going to find a way to win this game, just because they are at home. It's not going to be the prettiest game to watch. So unless you're a Jets or Dolphins fan, I don't blame you if this doesn't hit your TV at all, unless it comes up on Red Zone on Sunday. But I'm leaning towards the Jets, so I'm gonna actually go ahead and pick the Jets. I do think this could have potential shootout game. So I think it could be some high scoring going affairs. So I'm going to take the Jets on a 28-24 type of win. But, just because of how Brian Flores has that team playing, I would not be surprised if the Dolphins win. But because the Jets are at home and they're definitely going to want to split the series, especially because Adam Gase doesn't want to lose to his former team twice. So I'm going to lean towards the Jets in this one. And I'm going to go ahead and get into what probably, you can make the case for this is probably the best it's hard. There's a lot of good matchups, but this is one of the better matchups of Sunday. San Francisco is traveling out to New Orleans to face the Saints. As far as injuries heading into the matchup on the 49ers front, Jaquiski Tart has been out with a rib injury. D Ford has been limited with his quadricep and hamstring injury. George Kittle has been limited with a knee and ankle injury. Richard Sherman has been limited with a knee injury, and then Joe Staley has been limited with a finger injury. On the Saints front, Andrews Piet has not practiced with a forearm injury. Kiko Alonso has not practiced with thigh injury. AJ Klein has not practiced with a knee injury. Zach Lyon has been limited with a knee injury, and then Teron Armstead has been limited with an ankle injury. I don't know. As far as how this game is going to go, this has a lot on the line. Obviously, the 49ers need to keep on winning because they are now in the 5th seed, so they got to keep up with the Seahawks so they can control their own fate to get back into the leader as over the NFC West, and also for a potential first-round bye and a potential home field advantage. But then so did the Saints. Saints got their division wrapped up, so they're fully focused on just like winning like a game like this. So not only improves their chances for that first-round bye, but it also improves their chances to get home field advantage because, for example, if they win this game and then the 49ers win out and win the NFC West, they have a tiebreaker. Saints get that advantage. So I know this is a game that the Saints are going to want to win. I think it's going to be a close game. I think this is actually going to be a low-scoring affair. It's maybe going to come down to a field goal. I do look at the Saints' injuries to their linebackers and wonder if that's going to affect their ability to slow down the running game of San Francisco as well. But then I look at the San Francisco injury report; they're kind of still banged up. So I'm sure that, especially with Richard Sherman and his knee injury, with him being more likely limited in his abilities, that's going to affect them to slow down a guy like Michael Thomas. So it's hard for me to pick a winner, but it's the one thing that I think favors the Saints, besides the fact that they're playing at home. It's just like I talked about last week with the 49ers being in Baltimore. You're talking about a West Coast team playing a 1 p.m. Eastern start time. And again, stats show the West Coast teams typically lose those games. So I'm going to give the Saints the favor because they're at home and because this game is starting at 1 p.m. I'll give the Saints I could see the Saints winning say like a 21-20 type win. They get they kick a field goal to take a 1-point lead at the end of the game. That's how close I think it's going to be. They could win by 1 to 3 points. I'm going to take the Saints just because they are at home and it's that early start time for a West Coast team. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the next game. Lions are traveling to the Vikings. And no news on either team as far as injuries on the matchup. Matthew Stafford still is out of practice. Honestly, I don't understand why they haven't placed him on IR yet. Damon Harrison has not practiced with a calf and knee injury. Deshaun Hand has not practiced with an ankle injury. Sam Martin has been limited with an abdomen injury, and Rashawn Melvin has been limited with a rib injury. On the Vikings front, Riley Reeve has not practiced with a concussion. Adam Thielen has not practiced yet with his hamstring injury. Linval Joseph has been limited with a knee injury. Dalvin Cook has been limited with a chest injury. Everson Griffin has been limited with a knee injury. And then Shamar Stephen has been limited with a knee injury. As far as how I think this game's going to go, I think the Vikings walk all over the Lions. I really do. Obviously, they got to keep pace with the Packers so they have a chance to win the NFC North. And then you're talking about a undrafted rookie quarterback on the road in Minnesota, where the Vikings typically, I know their defense has not been the same this year, but they still play pretty hard when they're at home. They're a hard team to face in Minnesota. That stadium does get pretty loud for the Vikings. So I think the Vikings handle their business. I think they're going to walk. They should win this game, I think, by between 7 to 10 points. I mean, I could see this being like a 28-17 type win for the Vikings. Really don't have much to say on this because this should be a game that the Vikings easily win. I'm going to go ahead and get into the next game. Denver is traveling down to Houston to face the Texans. No news on either team as far as injuries for the Broncos. Ron Leary has not practiced with a concussion. Von Miller has been limited this week with a knee injury. Malik Reed has been limited with the ankle and shoulder injury. Alexander Johnson has been limited with a knee injury, and Connor McGovern has been limited with a back injury. On the Texans front, Garyon Conley has been limited with a hip injury. Will Fuller has been limited with a hamstring injury. Bradley Roby has been limited with a hamstring and toe injury. Brendan Scarlett has been limited with a shoulder injury. And then Angelo Blackson has been limited with a shoulder injury. As far as how this game's going to go, I mean, I could see maybe Denver sticking in this game just if Drew Lock doesn't make any mistakes, because the Denver defense is still pretty good. I could see them possibly slowing down the Texans' offense. But, I mean, the Texans just got a bunch of momentum rolling their way. So I really don't see that happening, but I do see a case where you could tell me the Broncos slowed down the Texans' offense. But that will be based on if Von Miller plays or not. If Von Miller is out again, I definitely don't see that happening. But I think with the momentum the Texans are rolling with, especially with that win over the Patriots, I know they don't want to lose a game and ruin their chances of possibly getting a first-round bye. Of course, they're going to need the Ravens and the Patriots to continue to lose some games to make that happen. And they only have a one-game lead right now over the Titans, who they face twice in the coming weeks. So they definitely need to win this game. So I'm going to say the Texans do handle their business. I think it'll be closer than what people expect. I really do. I think it's going to be like I could see the Texans winning like a 27-21 type win for the Texans. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into what is another great game. This is another, I actually kind of want to tune into this game as much as I can on Sunday. Baltimore is traveling to Buffalo to face the Bills. As far as injuries with the Ravens, Marlon Humphrey has been limited with a thigh injury. Patrick Onwuasor has been limited with the ankle, and Marquise Brown has been limited with the ankle injury. And on the Bills front, they're relatively healthy as far as notable names on the injury report. Quentin Spain is the only guy that's notable on the list, and he has not practiced because of an illness. As far as how this game's going to go, I mean, obviously I want to lean towards the Ravens. They're the hottest team in the NFL right now. They basically seem unstoppable. They beat, tons of great teams, like the Patriots, the Niners, the Seahawks, and you can keep on going on with that. But then you look at the Bills, they're coming off their statement win against the Cowboys. The Bills have a chance to possibly give themselves a chance to win the AFC East. And if they can beat the Ravens, and I'm going to talk about it later, and the Patriots lose to the Chiefs, I mean, it's going to give them a great shot to not only win the AFC East, but potentially have a first-round bye, and not only a first-round bye, but the number one seed. So this is a very important game for both teams. It's hard for me to predict because I can honestly see both teams winning just because this is in Buffalo. Buffalo is a hard place to play. Who knows what the weather will be come Sunday? Who knows? It might be a snowy type of game, and maybe that throws things off for Lamar's running ability and passing ability in that game. But I got to go lean towards the Ravens. They got they're at this point, guys, by the way, there's only 2 MVP candidates. It's Lamar or Russell. So they got one of the MVP candidates in Lamar Jackson. I mean, we saw how he actually performed in a monsoon type of weather. So maybe I shouldn't have said what I just said about 30 seconds ago. So I could see the Bills winning. Trust me, I could see the Bills winning by a field goal. I definitely can, but I got to go with the hot team. I got to go with the MVP candidate. I think they can find a way to win this. I say they win like a 21-17 type of win against Buffalo. It will be a close game, and I think Buffalo will have a shot to win this too. Like I said, this is one of those games I hope I can watch as much as possible come Sunday. And then as far as the next game, Cincinnati is traveling to Cleveland to face the Browns. No news on either team. As far as injuries with the Bengals, again, AJ Green has not practiced. Please just shut him down and put him on IR. I was about to go on a rant, but I didn't want to waste your guys' time. Sam Hubbard has not practiced as well for the Bengals as far as notable with his knee injury, as far as notable names for them. Notable names on the Browns injury report this week. Odell Beckham has been limited with a groin injury. Jarvis Landry has been limited with a hip injury. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and say names and injuries. All these guys have been limited. Demetrius Harris with a shoulder, Chris Hubbard with a knee, J.C. Treader with the knee, Olivier Vernon with the knee, and Greedy Williams with a shoulder. As far as how I think this game's going to go, I'm going to lean towards the Browns just because they're the more talented team. I know the Bengals just came off their first win, and Andy Dalton is back in full, and the Browns have actually been more of a disappointment. But the Browns technically do still have a shot at the playoffs, so they do have more to fight for in this matchup. So I am going to lean towards the Browns. I think they should be able to handle their business. They should be able to win by a touchdown. I could see the Browns winning this game I can see this being like a 24-17 type win for the Browns. Just because there's not a lot to talk about in this game, we're just going to go ahead and move on. But I think the Browns do handle their business against the Bengals on Sunday. And then heading into the next matchup, which will be the last matchup to talk about as far as the games that start at 1 p.m. Eastern time. The Washington Redskins are traveling to Green Bay to face the Packers. As far as injuries heading into the matchup, with the Redskins front, Trey Quinn has not practiced with a concussion. Paul Richardson has not practiced with a hamstring. And then Adrian Peterson has not practiced with a toe injury. The following guys have been limited in practice this week. Ryan Anderson with a shoulder, Morgan Moses with the back, Brandon Scherf with a shoulder, and then Montez Sweat with a quad injury. On the Packers front, these guys have all been limited in practice. Brian Beluga with a knee, Jimmy Graham with a calf and wrist, Kevin King with a shoulder, and then Jamal Williams with a knee injury. As far as how I think this game will go, I think the Packers handle business at home in Green Bay against a rookie quarterback with a team that's somewhat decimated with injury, especially those guys on that report were their offensive line already struggles, but the guys on the report are one of their better offensive linemen. They're dealing with injuries. So I think the Packers, just like last week against the Giants, I think they just handle their business and they stomp this team down. They should win by 10 plus points. I could see this being I forget off the top of my head what the score was last week against the Giants, but I could see the same type of score. I think it was like a 31-17 type of win for the Packers last week, and I could see them beating the Redskins the same way. So I think the Packers handled their business. I really don't got much to say on this. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the afternoon games. The Chargers are traveling to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. One thing I want to talk about is how does the NFL get this right? Where they have the Chargers playing at the correct time that they should if they travel out to the East Coast. What I talked about earlier with the 49ers traveling to the Saints, why is that game not starting at this time? That's all I got to say. And just come on, guys. Be better, NFL. But the Chargers are traveling out to Jacksonville. As far as injuries heading into the matchup, Chargers are actually relatively healthy as far as notable names. Mike Williams has been limited with a knee injury. On the Jaguars front, they are dealing with injuries. Not only they're dealing with the injuries, they placed their best linebacker on IR this week, Miles Jack, so his season is officially done. As far as practice reports, D.D. Westbrook, for a personal matter, has not practiced this week. Ronnie Harrison has not practiced with a concussion injury. Seth DeValve has not practiced with a oblique injury. The following players have been limited this week. DJ Chark with a back injury, Chris Conley with an ankle injury, DJ Hayden with a neck injury, Trey Herndon with a shoulder injury, Brandon Linder with a knee injury, and Calais Campbell with a back injury. As far as how this game's going to go, I know the Chargers have been a major disappointment. I know they find ways to lose games, but this should be a game I think they actually handle their business with how banged up the Jaguars are. And the Jaguars are going completely south. They're basically going downwards. Even when Minshew came in last week, he turned over the ball multiple times as well. So I think they're going to get after Minshew. And also, too, with Miles Jack now going on IR, that team cannot stop the run over the last month. I think Melvin Gordon completely goes off. I think after his holdout, and actually there was an interview that came out earlier this year or this week where he talked about, like, even though the Chargers are basically out of the playoffs, that he has to put on film so he can go get paid this offseason. So this is a perfect team to put that type of film on. So honestly, I got this weird feeling Melvin Gordon's actually going to help as far as fantasy football. I think he's about to help teams win their fantasy championship over the coming weeks with that statement he made. But that's something maybe me and Rob can talk about on the fantasy football hot seat next week if he ends up being on our studs and our stud list. But yeah, I think Melvin Gordon's about to run all over this team. I honestly think the Chargers handle their business. Derwin James will be his second game back, so maybe he could shake off some of those the rust he probably had last week and make some game-changing type of plays. Maybe get a pick in this game. I think the Chargers win this game by 7 to 10 points. I could see the Chargers winning like a 31-24 type win for the Chargers. I honestly could see that score being even more lopsided for the Chargers. I think they handle their business just because you're talking about a Jaguars team that's completely going down south. And like I said, I think Doug Marrone's a candidate that will be fired at some point. I think he probably finishes the season out, but who knows? We just saw Ron Rivera get fired this week, and they still technically have a shot for the playoffs. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the next game. Pittsburgh is traveling out to Arizona to face the Cardinals. James Conner actually came out, even though he was limited in practice, he actually ruled himself out with his shoulder injury. And then Juju Smith-Schuster has not practiced yet, so it looks like he's more than likely going to be out again for the Steelers. On the Cardinals front, they're relatively healthy right now. A.Q. Shipley has not practiced with an illness. J.R. Sweezy has not practiced with he's been limited with an illness. And then Jalen Thompson has been limited with a concussion injury. As far as how this game's going to go, I don't know. Arizona, to me, I don't know why. They've always been a weird team for me to predict when they play in Arizona. Everything says the Steelers should win this game because their defense has been playing great. They have the 6th seed in the AFC playoff picture, so they're going to want to keep on stacking up wins. But I think the Cardinals are going to come to play in this game. I really do. I think this is one of those games I've been talking about. The Cardinals can play spoiler alert and ruin somebody's chances to make the playoffs. But I'm going to lean towards the Steelers because like I said, they have more to fight for in this game. I'm just saying, if the Cardinals win this game, don't be surprised because, like I said, they're a team. I think this is going to be a very close game that's going to come down to the wire. Yes, Duck Hodges has played a lot better. He is going against a pretty bad pass defense, so he could have a good game. But I still think that offense is somewhat limited as well. So I think that's going to give the Cardinals a chance because while the Steelers' defense is pretty good, the Cardinals still have the capabilities of putting up points and playing games tough, like we did see against the 49ers twice this year. So I'm picking the Steelers just because they have more to fight for. But like I said, I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to come down to the last couple minutes, maybe who even has the ball last. But just because the Steelers have more to fight for, I'm going to lean towards them. I think it's going to be like a 24-21 type win for the Steelers. But let me say this. I could see it being reversed. I could see the Cardinals winning 24-21 as well. But I'm officially, I guess, going to pick the Steelers just because they have more to fight for in this one. Going into the next game, Tennessee is traveling out to Oakland to face the Raiders. As far as injuries, the Titans, they got some pretty notable names on their injury report. Adam Humphries has not practiced with an ankle injury. Adoree Jackson has not practiced with a toe injury. LaShawn Sims has not practiced with a toe injury. Derrick Henry has been limited this week with a hamstring injury. Ben Jones has been limited with a thumb injury. And then A.J. Brown has been limited with a calf injury. And the Raiders front, their offensive line is pretty banged up right now. Trent Brown has not practiced with a pectoral. Gabe Jackson has not practiced with a knee injury. Josh Jacobs has not practiced with a shoulder injury. And Hunter Renfrow has not practiced with his ribs injury. And then Rodney Hudson has been limited with an ankle injury. And LaMarcus Joyner has been limited with a hamstring injury. As far as how this game's going to go, I do think this game will be pretty close. But at the end of the day, the injuries to the Raiders line is going to hurt them. I mean, but we're also talking about two different teams going in opposite directions. The Titans are really hot right now underneath Ryan Tannehill, and then the Raiders have basically gone completely south over the last couple of weeks, getting completely blown out the door. But the Raiders are at home. They're doing their last farewell tour to the Oakland crowd, so I'm sure the team doesn't want to let the Oakland crowd down and just completely fall flat on their face to finish the season out. So I do think this game's actually going to be close. For whatever reason, I feel that way, especially with the injuries to some of the Titans players as well. But because the Titans, I mean, both of them have something to play for, right? Raiders beat them. They're 7-6, and they still have a shot at the wild card. But the Titans obviously want to keep on winning so they can stay within pace with the Steelers, not only for the wild card, but they want to stay within pace with the Texans so they have an opportunity to win the AFC South. So I think the Titans will find a way to win. But like I said, I think this is going to be a pretty good close game. I say the Titans win like a 20. I think they win like a 27-24 type win for the Titans, but don't be surprised if the Raiders have a shot to win this game at some point. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into the next game, another great matchup that has a lot of implications on the line. The Chiefs are traveling out to the Patriots. I'm sorry, to New England to face the Patriots. As far as injuries heading into this matchup, the Chiefs did place Darrell Williams on IR this week, so his season's done. They signed a long time old running back that used to play for them, Spencer Ware. And then Damian Williams has not practiced with a rib injury. Frank Clark has not practiced with a shoulder illness. With the Patriots, Ted Karras has not practiced with his knee injury. The following players have been limited, and it looks like maybe old age is finally catching up to this guy. Tom Brady has been limited with a elbow and toe injury. Marcus Cannon has been limited with the illness. Patrick Chung with a heel. Julian Edelman with a shoulder, Jason McCourty with a groin, and Mohamed Sanu with an ankle. All those guys were limited. And as far as how this game is going to go, this is kind of hard for me to pick because it's so hard to pick against the Patriots, right? Especially when they're at home. But I think this is kind of like, how do I say this? Like a Super Bowl? Not necessarily their Super Bowl, but with the Chiefs losing to the Patriots last year, I know for a fact that's got to be on the back of their mind. They want to get their revenge. So they got something to fight for, not only to get their revenge for losing to the Patriots last year in the playoffs, but they beat the Patriots. That gives them a better chance to get the first round bye. And not only if they beat the Patriots, if the Bills can beat the Ravens, that really helps their chances to not only get a first round bye, but potentially the number one seed. Now, obviously, the Patriots, the Bills, and the Ravens would have to lose, another game for that to happen. But the Chiefs did, like I've said before, the Chiefs beat the Ravens earlier in the season. If they beat the Patriots here, they're going to have a potential chance to be the number one seed in the AFC. But then again, the Patriots too, they're going to want to keep on winning games so they can win the AFC East so they can get a first round bye.
As far as how this game's going to go, I mean, I think this is going to be a game where they go back and forth with each other. But I'm going to lean towards KC just because the Patriots offense has not looked great this year. I think last week, Deshaun Watson showed that you can actually throw all over this defense if you're a good quarterback like him, and Patrick Mahomes is a good quarterback like him. So I think KC wins this game. I do think it's going to be a close game, come down to the wire, but I have the Chiefs winning like a shootout game, like a 31-27 game for the Chiefs. And then as far as the Sunday night game, Seattle is traveling to Los Angeles to face the Rams. As far as injuries heading into the matchup, with the Seahawks, Nick Bellore has not practiced with a quadricep injury. Luke Wilson has not practiced with a hamstring injury. Michael Kendricks has not practiced with a hamstring injury. And then Dwayne Brown has been limited with bicep and a knee injury. And then Jadeveon Clowney has been limited with a core injury. And then Ziggy Ansah has been limited with a neck injury. As far as the Rams, Gerald Everett has not practiced with his knee injury. And then Rob Havenstein has been limited with his knee injury. As far as how this game's going to go, honestly, this is a pretty hard game for me to pick. I know you guys might think that's crazy because of how the Seahawks have played and how the Rams have looked this season, but if anybody knows the history of the Rams and Seahawks, like if anybody remembers when the Seahawks were pretty good but the Rams were bad, they always found a way to beat them, and vice versa. When the Rams were kicking ass the last couple of years, the Seahawks would find a way to win when they were having their down years. So if you base that on history, the Rams are probably going to win this, right? They're at home. They have a lot to fight for. They got their one game back in the wild card position. I know they want to play maybe spoiler alert and hurt the Seahawks' chances to get that first round bye and the first seed in the NFC. I think this is going to be a close game, come down to the wire. I can see maybe the Rams doing the upset because of the reasons I just said. But like I talked about with the Ravens, you're talking about one of the hotter teams in the NFC with one of the two MVP candidates in Russell Wilson. So sorry to my producer, Rob. I'm going to trust Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in this one. But like I said, I can see the Rams sneaking out with a win in this one on Sunday night. But I'm going to lean towards the Seahawks. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Like I said, there's a lot of games I think are going to come down to the wire this weekend. I had the Seahawks squeezing out a win, barely 24-21 type win for the Seahawks, just because they want to hold on to the lead on the NFC West and potentially get that number one seed in the NFC. And then the Monday night matchup, Giants are traveling to Philadelphia. Again, as always, you'll get my prediction and how I feel about that game on the Monday episode of Cody Talks NFL. But as far as news, no news on the Eagles. As far as Giants, there's definitely a little interesting tidbit for you. But Daniel Jones is dealing with a high ankle sprain. It's very likely we're going to see Eli Manning suit up once again for the Giants. So basically, Eli has a chance to kind of do a farewell tour. I know some people try to float out the idea he can, audition for a new team, but I think Eli's done after this year. Maybe who knows? I could be surprised, but I think it's gonna be maybe a farewell tour. He's gonna want to maybe get some revenge and ruin other teams' chances to make the playoffs, and he can do that against the Eagles. So we'll see. Obviously, I'll have an update for you as far as if Eli is officially starting on Monday. So tune into the Monday edition of Cody Talks NFL for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and get into Rob's question. Are you an old school type who believes you must win your division or be a wild card for the playoffs? Or are you the top 6 teams type of kind of guy? And why do you believe whichever I believe? I understand the record thing. Like, it's probably trash, the fact that the Cowboys and the Eagles are probably going to sneak in at 7-9 or 8-8, but I guess you could call me old school. You guys can blast me for it, but I do think if you win your division, you have the right to get into playoffs. But what I think is if the wild card team has a better record than you, I think it could be changed where the wild card team has to go to that team. I don't think if you win your division and you have a worse record than the wild card team, you should have the right to host the game. I think they can at least change that, right? And the reason why I say this is because the last two teams, the Seahawks and it was, I want to say, the Panthers, the last two teams that I'll just keep on going. Rob's telling me my voice is messed up, so I'm sorry guys if this isn't coming through that well. But yeah, the last two teams that finished like below 500 and they made the playoffs, they actually won the wild card game. So that tells me they should have a chance at least to win, but I just don't think they should host the game. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up though, guys, because my voice might not be sounding that great. It sounds like it unfortunately had a technical audio issue at the end of this. But yeah, if you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Check me out on the Blitzalytics podcast network if you want to listen to the audio version. And also, if you guys have anything to give, please check out the All Heart Charity League. 10 different teams representing 10 different charities coming to an end. But if we get any donations to help out those charities, that would be great. And then if you guys are looking for stocking stuffers, please go to Blitzalytics.com, hit the store button. Tons of options there that Rob has for you guys for this holiday. But yeah, a quick wrap up for you guys, just in case my voice is still messed up on it. But I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great weekend. You guys go enjoy your weekend and enjoy all that great football we're going to have on Sunday. And I'll see you on Monday. Blitz out.
Thank you for watching Cody Talks NFL, presented by Blitzalytics.com. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, and then hit that bell notification icon to stay up to date on all things football.